All right, so it has been quite a while, I believe, since I've done a Q&A video. So, yeah, we're bringing it back. I'm looking forward to this. I thank you, everyone, ahead of time for the questions that you submitted. I don't have the time to be able to answer every single one of the questions asked, so my apologies up front, but tried to pick some of the best ones here. There were other good ones and some that were similar in theme, so, did the best I can. Try to make this as interesting as I possibly can in a relatively short amount of time. So let's go ahead and get started. As always, you can follow me on Twitter. Twitter handle should be in the description box below. All right, so NFL Buff Coleman's going to start us off by asking, is Kirk Cousins a future Hall of Famer? Given he's 7th all-time in passer rating. Oh my God. Oh, no. Oh, but he's made 3 Pro Bowls. That doesn't really mean much nowadays, honestly. Look at him statistically in terms of seasons that he finished in the top 5 in major statistical categories. Completion percentage, passing yards, passing touchdowns, yards per attempt, any of that. The pickings are very slim. When you look at him statistically, he typically falls more in like the 8 to 12 or 8 to 14 range, which is about what you associate with Kirk Cousins. That is not a damn Hall of Famer. Thank you for the laugh, NFL Buff Coleman, to kick us off on this Q&A. Spenny P19 says, will the McCaskey sell the team after the Bears get the new stadium in Arlington Heights? Okay, so it'll be interesting to see what happens because the biggest domino to play out there is what's going to happen once Virginia, the Crypt Keeper, passes away. Because, of course, the Bears doing Bears football things, their ownership situation is all types of screwed up. Because Virginia's got the majority shares in theory because she controls all the voting interest of all the shares that are split amongst the kids, but then you also have Ryan and McKenna outside of the family that have their own shares and I believe have a right of first refusal for any sale to happen. So I don't know what the hell is going to go down. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens at some point in time, but when the Crypt Keeper finally croaks, the drama around this Bears organization, in particular its ownership situation, could get very, very interesting, very hot. I personally would like to see them sell the team before. The sooner the better, but yeah, take your wins where you can. For Christ's sakes, Bean Counting Ted just getting out at the end of the year. I gotta take that and enjoy that. Couple of similar questions here from GH Bears fan 08 and N Seipel 99. Who do you think is the greatest Bears quarterback you've ever watched? That's really a low bar. Really doesn't say much, but it's Jim McMahon. I know a lot of you are going to say, well, what about Jay Cutler? Well, what the fuck about him? At least I can say in my lifetime as a Bears fan, Jim McMahon made a Pro Bowl at some point. Jim McMahon took the team to a Super Bowl title. It's McMahon. His problem was he could never stay healthy. He was made of frickin' glass. But Cutler was just an average NFL starting quarterback. McMahon, when he was healthy, was above average. So I'll go McMahon. Rosario asks, why is Joe Burrow being ball-washed by the media? I'm a Chargers fan, so I'm sick of having to have debates on how he's supposedly better than Herbert. Yeah, to be very clear, he's not better than Herbert. That's crazy in my opinion. Why is Burrow being ball-washed, though? He came from a situation where he won the national championship at LSU in a historically great college offense. Then in his second season, he led the Bengals of all damn teams to the Super Bowl. And they almost won it. Let's not pretend like that's an insignificant accomplishment, whereas Herbert, is putting up massive numbers, but has yet to even make the playoffs. I agree, I'm taking Justin Herbert over Joe Burrow 100 out of 100 times, but let's not pretend like there aren't reasons for Joe Burrow to be getting so much media attention. He's kind of got that Joe Cool kind of vibe to him. His team just made the Super Bowl. So I'll support you on there's no way I'd take him over Herbert conversation. That's true. But as far as the ball washing part, it's not Mahomes level or anything. but you got to understand the reasons why, and they're not that crazy. BirdDog502 asks, ooh, this is going to be a good question. What is your take on the LIV tour? Are you Team PGA or Team LIV? Initially, as this was getting reported that it was going to be a thing and it was going to happen, I was Team PGA. And that was in part because of kind of like having to sometimes overcome the Americanization, indoctrination that you get over the decades. Oh, the Saudis, look at what they support. I mean, nobody is more grimy at the end of the day than the American government and the American establishment. Am I wrong here? Am I really? So I got to remove that from the conversation. I personally think the kind of format with LIV is kind of dumb, like the limited amount of players. If it was like 48 of truly the absolute top tier best players in the world, you could say, well, everybody that plays at that level is. No, you know what I mean. Like if it was all of the top like 48 players, like maybe it's a different conversation. But I think some of the format is weird. I like the thought that they're allowing the players to wear shorts. Oh my God, what a novel concept. The PGA just continues to be stubborn about that. I'm really not team either one at this point. I haven't watched any LIV events. But here's my thing, is I saw somebody recently on Twitter talk about this, comparing it to like the kart IRL, when you talk about like open kart racing. Back in the 90s, how that kind of split into two leagues and the sport hasn't been the same. That's my concern here. Sometimes the thought is, well, competition is good for everybody. And not always the case. It can be bad. It can create a situation where you have two diluted brands that split your audience, your same core audience, and don't grow the game, and both suffer as a result, and the sport ultimately suffers as a result. Like IndyCar racing absolutely has suffered as a result, has it not? That's the thing that I'm kind of concerned with here. Football fan 5455. Who are the biggest Hall of Fame snubs throughout all of sports? I don't have time to go through the Hall of Fame snubs in all of the sports. As far as the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which I spend the most time studying and researching, I look at it like this. They just had the senior committee. Chuck Howley should have been in a long time ago. Certainly should have been in years ago over Dave Robinson, and he wasn't. But Klecko was a Hall of Famer someday type of guy, but he didn't need to be now. And Ken Riley getting in, especially now, is an absolute farce. And when you look at the whole thought of, well, they kind of stick to the queue and they respect their previous work, so the next three guys in the 2024 class are going to be Randy Gradishar, Bob Kuchenberg, and Sterling Sharp. When I look at that class and say how much better it is than the one that's going to be for 2023 from the senior pool with guys like Howley, I'll leave him separate because he is absolutely worthy and deserving, but Klecko and Riley especially, like that means the process is dumb. It's stupid. It didn't work right. You're supposed to put in the most qualified people regardless, not some fanboy shit of, oh, we got moved by testimonials from former players and all this other crap that shouldn't matter. So those are some of the big snubs to me, or those next three guys up in the senior pool. They're certainly not alone and not exclusive. Like I look at Ken Riley. How the fuck Ken Riley get in the Hall of Fame? Well, even the best corner on his team in the 70s, that was Lamar Parrish, and he couldn't even crack the top 25 semifinalist list. In terms of modern candidates, like it's a whole different process between the senior committee and the moderns. I look at a guy like Tim McDonald and I say, this is a guy that was a safety that has better numbers to me than Darren Woodson. And has a Super Bowl ring from his time in San Francisco, but some of the early years of his career were spent with the Cardinals when they were nothing. He gets nowhere in the process, but people are talking about Darren Woodson being a Hall of Famer, and I'm trying to understand exactly what's the difference here. Albert Lewis is a guy. You know, people want to talk about Steve Tasker and what he did as a special team. Albert Lewis was a great corner and a great special teams player, so why the hell can't he get further along in the process? Leslie O'Neal, like I could go on. It doesn't mean I sit there and say, like, every one of these guys should be in the Hall of Fame right now. My point is they feel to be snubs in the process of they can't even advance. Like, how the hell did Bryant Young get into the Hall of Fame, but Patrick Willis still waits? I would have to imagine even 49ers fans would look at that one and say that's kind of crazy. The Tomas O'Brien, with Justin Fields having his best showing, albeit in week 3 of the preseason, does this make you feel like he may exceed expectations this year? I don't know. I'm not going to sit there and get too caught up in preseason stuff, especially since I think Cleveland had a number of the starters out. And I would beg everybody to be patient here and not overreact too much to what they saw in the preseason, one way or another. Blazin 1978. What do you think is the most overrated football stat? The one which you think people hype up unnecessarily. Quarterback wins. Quarterback wins. Quarterback wins. Well, this guy won a lot of games. Yeah, because of the situation and the talent surrounding him. Like if you win off of the quarterback wins, like Jimmy Garoppolo's an elite quarterback. We know he's not an elite quarterback, and we know when time gets that you're not going to win games because of him. But people will point to, look at his record as a starter, so what? Rex Grossman was like 13-3 as a starter in 2006. That didn't mean he was any damn good. Beyond question, that's the most overrated stat in football. Rick Styles, 1985. If the 49ers get off to a slow start, should they go back to Jimmy G or should they let Trey Lance ride it out? Trey Lance. His name is Trey Lance, and he needs to play the entire season. It's dumb enough that they wasted last season with Jimmy G in his handoff game, like Trey Lance wouldn't have been able to hand off the ball too. Like, that was dumb. Seymour, 94. What position on the Bears do you feel was most improved from last season? Position on the Bears that was most improved from last season. I guess it would technically be the defensive line. I'd probably say the defensive line, and that's partly due to the switch from the 3-4 to the 4-3 base. But you brought in Justin Jones. Now you have Robert Quinn playing at defensive end. You have Travis Gibson at defensive end. That probably would be the position that was most improved in the offseason for the Bears. And maybe that's why so many media members are not looking at the Bears so glowingly, because there's a lot of projection involved with trying to assume that the Bears are going to improve where you didn't see a ton of upgrades. Maybe some would point to the secondary too, with Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker being added, but there are also two rookies, so we got to see how that plays out. 420 Investor Boy, does the world face a greater risk of eventual overpopulation or depopulation? Probably one begets the other. Overpopulation leads to mass depopulation. Be my thought. Rob the Yankee, do you think Big Ben, Phillip Rivers, and Eli get in on the first ballot? Great question. I don't know that any of them will get in on the first ballot, although the recent history, I think it was my friend Jack Silverstein has called this out before, since like 1990 or 2000. I'm forgetting something here. I think it was since 1990. The only quarterback that didn't get in on the first ballot was Kurt Warner, and it only took him 3 tries. Basically, if you're a Hall of Fame quarterback, you're getting in right away. Like, the voters can't wait to put you in, no matter whether you're truly deserving of that first ballot distinction or not. Like, don't you think it's crazy that, a guy like Troy Aikman got on the first ballot, same as like a Joe Montana? I'm not trying to shit on Troy Aikman, but I mean, come on. There's a difference here. There's even a difference when it comes to Hall of Famers. You get what I mean? The assumption would be is that each of these guys, or at least, if any of the 3 were going to be first ballot, it'd be Big Ben. I think he and Eli both get in within 3 years. Rivers will be the interesting one. Does he fall into the Donovan McNabb camp and he just doesn't make much progress? I'm not sure. But I don't think any of them go in on the first ballot. DeMarcus Flowers, nobody's denying the talent of Aaron Rodgers, but do you feel he's as big of a choke artist as Peyton Manning, especially in like conference championship games? There's an argument to be made that Rodgers gets way too easy for some of the choke jobs that his team has had. But no, Peyton Manning was a bigger choke artist than Aaron Rodgers. Daniel Sims, 23. Why are people so quick to bring up LeBron's flaws and failures in his career, but act like Jordan and Kobe never had any flaws or failures in their careers, or choose to sweep it under the rug? Let's be clear here. The same thing the LeBron stands are doing now. This is not new. It's not unique, Daniel. It's not anything different. It's not. Don't pretend like the LeBron stands are any better. Don't pretend like they're different. They're fucking not, and it's dumb to fucking think so. All right? I think it's because he's also the most relevant in terms of he's the one still playing, and you could see like the media narratives, and people are becoming maybe perhaps a little more sensitive to like the force down your throat, where it was easier to force Jordan down people's throats at the time because there wasn't quite the same level of exposure. I don't know. But, you know, LeBron inherently to me is a guy that on the one hand should be incredibly likable, and on the other hand does and says things that makes him very unlikable. He has flaws, he certainly does, but Jordan had flaws. He wasn't a phenomenal three-point shooter. He was average for his time, but he certainly wasn't top-notch. Late in his career, I thought he got way too pissy, whiny, moany when it came to the officials. Like every foul call or every like whistle for a travel or something was always a big thing with Jordan. That always kind of grated on me a little bit. I thought his defensive effort, like at times it was a bit strategic, like he would ease off a little bit defensively, especially during the second three-peat. So there were moments of that. Not as much as I've seen out of LeBron the past few years. But yeah, the whole thing with like Kobe, like people talking about this Mamba mentality, this Mamba mindset. Like Kobe's an icon of the game, but let's not pretend like he was always great or iconic in the freaking playoffs, especially in the NBA Finals. The numbers in your eyeballs just don't back that up. So I get what you're saying, and I see what you're trying to do and trying to level it out and say, well, the Jordan guys and the Kobe guys, they all fucking do it. So let's stop pretending, and you and the LeBron guys are no fucking better, believe me. And in fact, if anything, I look at some of the arguments about LeBron being the GOAT, and they are just fundamentally idiotic. Like, I think there's an argument to be made that I won't agree with, because I don't think it's there. But there are better ways to structure and frame the argument than what the LeBron backers throw out there. That's more of my criticism, is like, give me a better argument. And so often what I see is just really dumb. Like, for example, Daniel, when somebody says, well, LeBron's a better rebounder than Jordan, how do you determine? Based off of total number of rebounds per game when they're playing vastly different positions for the large stretches of their career? Like if you're talking about LeBron effectively playing the 3 or the 4 a lot of his career, you know, how does his rebounding look relative to his peers and competition at the position compared to Jordan playing the 2 or even some cases playing as a 1 and occasionally maybe as a 3? Same thing with assists. Like I can always point to, look at Michael's 88-89 season where he averaged 32, whatever it was, points a game, and he had 8 rebounds and 8 assists a game. The roles are much different now. Just is. So I'm with you. Like the Jordan folks pretend like Jordan didn't have any flaws. Like he was always clutching money in the playoffs. He was clutching money more often than Kobe and LeBron, certainly, but let's not pretend he was perfect. He certainly was not. He had some stinkers in the playoffs over the years, too. Kobe had even more, and LeBron's had a fair number of his. So I'm with you, but the LeBron people are no better, so cut that bullshit out. And then Foggits is going to close us out by asking, what are your thoughts on Candace Owens? She speaks the truth, and it seems like she'd be one you would get one of your black woman chubbers to listen to one of her fired up rants. She speaks the truth. That Franklin the turtle looking bitch speaks the truth. Oh, fuck Candace Owens. I wouldn't touch her with your stuff. Oh, fuck out of here. She speaks the truth. We started this Q&A with the big laugh. I'm ending it with a big laugh. Thank you so much, guys, for your questions. I've enjoyed this. Hope you did, too. I'll be back with more Q&A videos throughout the season. Make sure you keep up on this channel this week because the team-by-team season previews are coming in big, quick order. Take care.